They slammed the door before I could step in. My son didn't say a word. His bride stood behind him, arms crossed, eyes cold, and said, "We don't want any sad-looking people in our wedding photos." I had curled my hair that morning, wore the pearls he gave me at 12, brought cookies he used to beg for. He looked at them, then at me, then shut the door. I didn't knock again. I just stood there, porch light flickering, tray trembling in my hands. And in that moment, I stopped being the mother who gave him everything and became the woman who had nothing left to lose. They thought I was disposable, but I was the one holding the deed to everything they dreamed of. He didn't even knock, just walked in like it was still his house, like I was still the woman who made space for him in every room, every part of her life. He smelled like expensive cologne and something colder underneath. Detachment, maybe. I had baked lemon cookies, the ones he used to steal before they cooled. They sat untouched on the table beside the tea I brewed from the same loose chamomile he once asked for when he couldn't sleep. I was already standing when he said it, but I still felt like the floor dropped from under me. "I think it's better if you don't come to the wedding." No explanation, no softening, just that. My fingers brushed the rim of the teacup, not lifting it, just remembering it was still warm. I asked him what he meant, but I already knew. "It's a very curated event," he said, adjusting his collar like he was being interviewed, not speaking to his mother. "Madison and I want everything to reflect a clean, modern aesthetic. Minimalist." My heart was slow and steady, but I felt it crack, somewhere in the space between his words and my silence. I blinked, smiled, maybe. I can't remember. "You don't want your mother in your wedding photos?" I asked. He hesitated. That told me everything. "It's not about photos, it's about the vibe." The vibe. "You've been sick," he added, quieter. "The scarf, the weight loss, the coughing, it might make people uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. That was what I was now. I opened my mouth, closed it, tried again. "I could sit in the back," I whispered. "I just want to see my son get married." He looked away, and that's when she walked in. Madison. Tall, thin, hair slick like a shampoo commercial, her heels clicked against the hardwood. She didn't look at me, just scanned the room like a realtor judging property value. "So this is the place," she said, her voice too bright. "Cozy, very vintage." Jason nodded toward me. "This is my mom." She glanced. No eye contact, just a mechanical nod. "Nice to meet you." I stood there, in the house I raised him in, feeling like a stranger in my own story. "We've already finalized the seating chart," she said, "and the dress code. I'm sure you understand, it's about the overall feel, the energy." She finally looked at me then. Her eyes didn't soften. "You're sick. We admire your strength, but the scarf, the complexion, it might be too much for the setting. A vineyard wedding, outdoors, light colors, you know?" Jason chimed in. "We can send you the photos, even FaceTime you in. It'll be like you're there." FaceTime. My hands were still. My jaw was tighter than I realized. "I don't want a video link," I said, barely audible. "I want to be in the room." Madison's smile was all teeth. "We can talk after the honeymoon about long-term care, somewhere with a peaceful atmosphere, a good place to rest." I swallowed. "You mean a nursing home," I said. Jason stepped forward, palms out, pretending to mediate something that didn't exist. "Don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm trying to be respectful." Respectful. He was using that word on me. I looked at him. Really looked. Same hazel eyes I had rocked to sleep. Same jawline I used to kiss on cold mornings before school. His hands, once small and sticky with syrup, now held disdain with elegance. A man who no longer saw me as home. "I gave you everything," I whispered. "I know," he said, "and I appreciate that, but you can't guilt-trip me forever." Then he said it. "This is why Dad left you." I don't remember breathing after that. He said it like a knife, sharpened and saved for years, like he had waited for the perfect moment to gut me with it. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't beg. I just sat down slowly, my fingers trembling over my knees. The tea was still warm, the cookies untouched, my world narrowing to the sound of my own heartbeat. Madison was already walking toward the door. "We'll be in touch," she called back. "Let us know how your treatments go." Jason leaned down, kissed the top of my scarf. It felt like someone blessing a grave. "We love you, Mom," he said. "We really do." Then they left, just like that. No goodbye. No warmth. Just silence. I stood, walked to the window, watched their car pull out of the driveway I had swept every autumn. Then I whispered into the stillness of my empty house, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." I reached up and tightened the scarf at the base of my neck. It wasn't hiding shame anymore. It was holding me together. Because something inside me had shifted. Something final. They thought I was a ghost, but they forgot I knew where every document was hidden, every policy, every deed, every signature. They thought I was too weak to speak. But I still remembered how to sign my name, and I wasn't done yet. Not even close. They'd let me live invisible. Now, they would learn what happens when a woman who gave everything has nothing left to lose. I didn't turn on the lights that night. The house didn't need them. It already knew the darkness. It wore it like a shawl. Familiar, fitting. I sat on the edge of the recliner, my hands folded in my lap like I was waiting for a verdict that had already been passed. No sound but the soft hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the wall clock Jason made in middle school shop class. Tick, tick, tick. I didn't cry. Not even a little. My body had no energy left for something so indulgent. Not after the weight of his words had settled over my chest like wet concrete. My breathing was shallow. Chemo had made sure of that. But even more than the medicine, it was the silence afterward that took the air out of my lungs. He said I was why his father left. He said I was ruining the aesthetic. He said the scarf made people uncomfortable. He said all the right things to justify not seeing his mother. But I remembered. I remembered how many times I said no to myself so he could say yes. How I skipped dinners to afford his football gear. How I ironed his dress shirts at midnight because he had a debate meet the next morning. How I told him his father had just needed time, when really the man had walked out because being a husband was too heavy for a man who only knew how to love himself. Jason never knew. I made sure of that. I let him believe in a gentler version of his father, one that existed only because I held the truth back like floodwater. I did it to protect his heart. I didn't know it would come at the cost of my own. The living room was still, almost sacred. My Bible was still open on the nightstand, pages crinkled at Psalm 71. I had read it that morning. Do not cast me away when I am old. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. I had whispered it without irony. Now it echoed. I rose slowly, joints aching like an old porch in winter. The hallway stretched longer than usual, lined with photos that had once meant something. Jason as a toddler, gripping a stuffed rabbit. Jason at prom, all teeth and tucks. Jason on his college graduation day, his arm draped around my shoulder like I was part of the achievement. I reached my room. Everything was in its place. The bed was made, the curtains drawn. A single lamp glowed faintly. The air smelled faintly of lavender and old hope. I walked to the closet, knelt. My knees popped as I lowered down, body trembling slightly under the weight of both memory and meaning. At the very bottom, behind boxes of tax returns and shoe polish I hadn't used in years, sat a rusted metal file cabinet. I hadn't opened it in months. The key was still tied to a ribbon tucked in my jewelry drawer. I slid it in, turned. It clicked open with a groan like it was waking from sleep. Inside, folders, labeled neatly in black ink. Mortgage, 2112 Ellsworth Rental Unit, Maple Drive, Citizens Bank, Retirement Savings Insurance, Final Policy Holloway & Co., Legal Counsel. And at the very back, one manila envelope, written in my own hand, Final. I took it out, sat it gently on the bed. My hands lingered over it. My name was signed on nearly every page inside. Lorraine Ellen Whitmore. That name used to mean something. That name had weight. The will was still in Jason's name. My only child, my sole beneficiary. Every cent, every deed, every policy. I stared at the signature, at the curve of my last name. The ink looked permanent, but my resolve didn't. I reached for the drawer beside my bed and pulled out the letter opener. Brass, heavy. His gift to me when he was in college, engraved at the handle, Love J. I used it to cut through the will like it was soft cloth. Once down the center, then again, then again. 8 pieces total. 8 slices of expectation, trust, and the naive belief that love earned protection. I sat back, breathless, almost weightless. The room didn't feel smaller anymore. It felt like it had finally exhaled with me. I got up, walked to the kitchen. The lights above the sink flickered faintly, but I didn't bother fixing them. I didn't need things to be perfect anymore. I boiled water, buttered a slice of toast, sat down at the table with a yellow legal pad and a pen that still worked. And then I wrote. Not to Jason, to someone else. To the women I met years ago at a shelter called Haven House in Montgomery. Women with calloused hands and soft eyes. Women who were forgotten by everyone but still managed to hum old gospel songs while folding donated blankets. I used to volunteer there, paint chipped walls, serve chili, read Bible verses when their eyes got too tired. They were me, or I was them. Or maybe we had always been the same. I wrote down instructions. The main house would go to the shelter. The 3 rental homes would be sold, proceeds transferred within 30 days of my passing. The salon shares would go to my friend Bonnie, who had built it with me from scratch. My accounts at Citizens Trust would be moved into a donor-advised fund in Haven House's name. No funeral, no obituary, just one letter, delivered after the wedding, addressed to Jason. I set down the pen. My hand ached, but my chest, it felt lighter. I looked out the window. The street lamp across the road flickered on, casting long shadows onto the walkway Jason used to skip down after school. Backpack swinging, voice loud, always hungry, always loved. I whispered to that street lamp like it could still hear me. I raised you better. Then I stood, walked back to the bedroom, placed the shredded will into the trash, and opened the nightstand drawer to take out one more thing, my strength. Not the kind people see. Not the kind that lifts boxes or cooks for holidays or sits quietly at the back pew during Easter service. No, the kind that survives a son's erasure, that takes rejection and turns it into resolve, that turns silence into weaponry. I lay down slowly, pulled the blanket up to my shoulders, closed my eyes. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was something far more dangerous. I was a woman with a plan, and tomorrow I would call Grace Holloway, and everything would change. The invitation came tucked between a coupon catalog and a letter from my oncologist. Cream-colored envelope, gold-embossed trim. My name written in a handwriting I didn't recognize. I stood on the porch and opened it under a pale sky. My fingers trembled slightly, not from feeling but from the meds. Inside was a folded card and a photo of them. Jason in a fitted tux, Madison in white lace, her hand resting lightly on his chest like she owned it. They smiled like the world had been arranged just for them. The message beneath was short. The venue had changed. A vineyard now. Outside Charleston. White roses. Garden ceremony. Dress code pastels only. Guests kindly asked to respect the couple's aesthetic vision. A handwritten note added in the corner. We'd love to have you join us. Quietly, of course. Love, Renee. They wanted me there but invisible. Present but silent. I wasn't even mad. Not anymore. I had passed through that fire already, and what remained of me couldn't be burned twice. I placed the card on my kitchen counter. I didn't need to think. I would go. Not for them, for me, for the woman they erased who still knew how to write her own ending. The morning of the wedding, I woke before the sun. I moved slowly, deliberately, like I was preparing for battle, only quieter. I bathed with care, massaging lotion into skin that had grown thin from treatment. I dressed in a soft gray suit I hadn't worn since Easter 2 years ago. My scarf was deep navy, threaded with silver, wrapped like armor. I pinned on the dove brooch my mother had given me when I graduated college, a small thing, worn but still shining. My reflection caught me off guard. I looked like someone I used to know. Someone resilient. Someone capable of disappearing when necessary, and returning when it mattered. Grace Holloway arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, her navy pantsuit pressed to perfection, briefcase in hand. She didn't say much, just placed the manila envelope into her bag, nodded, and handed me a small black purse. Inside, 2 tissues, a bottle of water, and a second envelope. That one's for her, I said. Grace didn't ask questions. She never had to. The ride was quiet. Charleston stretched around us in soft greens and dusty sun. The vineyard came into view like a postcard someone forgot to send. Rows of vines glimmered in the early light, white tents fluttered in the breeze, and pastel-dressed guests floated around like they were in a magazine spread. I sat in the car for a moment, hands on my lap, breathing in the scene. Then I whispered, more to myself than to Grace, he spared no expense. She replied, not with your money. We stepped out together. Grace helped steady me as we walked the gravel path to the designated family section. A few guests glanced at me, offering polite nods without recognition. No one saw the woman behind the scarf. No one knew the house they toasted in existed, because I once cleaned toilets for $9.50 an hour to pay the down payment. I took my seat in the third row, as instructed. From there, I could see everything. The arch of flowers, the folding chairs in perfect symmetry, the string quartet adjusting their instruments. I sipped water from the bottle Grace had packed, my fingers stilling only when the music began. Jason walked down the aisle with practiced ease, confident, handsome, empty. His tux hugged a body that had forgotten what it felt like to run to the door for a hug. Then came Madison, slow and glowing in her dress, eyes trained on the altar like she had already won. The officiant spoke about love, about legacy, about honoring those who raised us. Jason shifted, but didn't turn around, didn't even glance in my direction. They exchanged vows, hers were emotional, his were polished. They kissed, and the crowd erupted. Camera shutters clicked like applause. People stood, I didn't. Grace leaned in and whispered, "Now?" I shook my head, "Not yet." They made their way back up the aisle, hand in hand, smiling for the camera. He pulled her close. She laughed like she was in a movie. I sat very still, breathing slow, heart quiet, hands calm. Then I nodded once. Grace stood, removed the envelope from her briefcase, and walked across the lawn. She didn't hesitate, didn't glance back. She approached the couple just as the photographer positioned them beneath the floral arch. Madison noticed her first, her brow furrowing. Jason turned. His smile froze. "Congratulations," Grace said evenly. "This is from your mother." She handed him the envelope, then turned to Madison. "This one's for you." She didn't wait for questions. She didn't offer comfort. She returned to my side like nothing had happened. "Done," she said. I stood slowly, cane in hand. Every joint resisted, but I moved like I was being pulled by something older than anger, older than grief. From across the vineyard, I watched Jason open the envelope, watched his face shift from confusion to disbelief, then panic. He flipped through the pages. The new will, the letter, the signed documents, the donation receipts, everything legal, everything final. Madison tore open hers, read the note written in my own script. "If you married him for what you think you're getting, you may want to find a new dress. He has nothing now, and he earned it." Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Jason said something. I couldn't hear it. I didn't need to. Her face told me everything. She turned to him, voice rising. Guests began to stare. The music stopped. Cameras lowered, fingers pointed, gasps scattered like leaves. Madison took a step back from him, her bouquet falling to the ground. Then she stormed off, heels crunching against gravel, bridesmaids scrambling behind her. Jason just stood there, alone, envelope in hand, wedding unraveling around him like ribbon in the wind. He looked out across the rows of seats, toward mine. I was already gone. All that remained on the chair was the scarf, navy with silver thread, folded neatly, deliberately, like a final signature. We didn't speak again, and he never got a photo with his mother on his wedding day. But he'll remember what he lost. He'll remember that smile, because it was the last one I ever let him wear. They believed I had passed. The obituary ran 2 days after the wedding. It was brief, respectful, drafted exactly as I had written it months earlier and submitted to Grace with my final documents. No photo, no ceremony, just my name, my birth date, and one line. "She is survived by her son, Jason Whitmore." That was the last gift I gave him. A mention, a mercy. Grace handled the rest. She sent the papers, filed the transfers, notified the institutions. She even followed through on the small things, canceling my voter registration, forwarding the necessary mail, closing my utility accounts. She did it all with the quiet competence of someone who had buried people she loved and helped those who hadn't been loved enough to matter. No one questioned it. No one came knocking. In their world, I was gone, but I was very much alive. I left Charleston 2 days later. Quietly. I packed no suitcase, just a handbag, my passport, and a single envelope left on Grace's kitchen counter. It read, "It's done. Thank you." The flight was long, but my heart was steady. Somewhere over the Atlantic, while others dozed or scrolled through screens, I stared out the window at a sky that couldn't be owned. It felt like beginning again. Now I live in a coastal village in southern Spain. The kind of place where time slows down and the air smells like oranges, wood smoke, and salt. I rent a small whitewashed house with blue shutters and a courtyard just big enough for a chair, a table, and 3 clay pots where I grow mint, basil, and a stubborn rosemary bush that refuses to die. I don't use my real name. Around here, I'm just Ellie. No one knows what I left behind. No one asks. The bakery girl calls me Senora and slips an extra roll into my bag. The man who sells fish by the harbor knows I don't speak Spanish well, but still tries to teach me one word each week. The old woman 2 houses down brings me lemons from her tree and leaves them in a basket by the gate. Here I'm invisible in the most beautiful way. I read in the afternoons. I drink tea on the steps at sunset. I let the sun paint my skin without apology. And when I sleep, I do not dream of them. Back in the States, I hear whispers reached farther than I imagined. Someone shared the photo, me standing among the women of Haven House, each of them holding bouquets from the garden I helped them build with their own hands. The caption read, "She gave us everything her family threw away." That picture traveled. It became something I never asked for but deeply understood. People reposted it with hashtags I didn't invent but instantly recognized as mine. "She deserved more, Mom with the last word, let her be seen." Women wrote their own stories beneath it. Mothers, daughters, strangers, all naming something that had lived in their throats too long. And though I never commented, I read every word. Donations poured in. Haven House renamed their central building, Whitmore Hall. Grace told me on a phone call, voice thick with the kind of pride that doesn't shout. I cried then. Not because I was honored, but because the women I once sat beside, the ones no one visited, now had a roof and hot meals and a garden named after a woman who was supposed to die quietly. Jason tried to sue. I knew he would. Entitlement doesn't fade with exposure. He sent letters, demanded the will be contested, claimed I'd been coerced, manipulated, emotionally unstable. But Grace had prepared everything, airtight, notarized, witnessed. There wasn't a crack wide enough to let his shadow through. She mailed him the final letter, the one I had signed on a cool Tuesday morning, with hands no longer shaking. It read, "I loved you, and you spit on it. I gave you everything, and you asked for more. I would have left you the world, but you told me I didn't belong in it. So now I live in one where you don't exist. Goodbye." Lam? He never responded, never sent flowers, never called Grace again. I imagine he sits in that expensive apartment with his empty bank account and his perfect silence. Madison left him, eventually. I'm sure of it. She didn't marry for love. She married for access. And now all the doors are locked. I don't hate him. That's the thing people never understand. I don't hate my son. But I refuse to love someone who uses that love as a weapon. I refuse to die begging for a seat at the table I built. Now, I eat my meals in peace. I walk to the market on Tuesdays. The woman at the flower stall knows I like white lilies. I still wear the navy scarf sometimes, not because I'm hiding, but because it reminds me of who I became. I still have some money left. Not much. Most of it's gone to people who'll never know my face. And that's the best part. This life isn't luxurious. It's clean. It's earned. Some mornings I open the drawer where I keep the one thing I brought from Charleston, a folded letter from a Haven House resident named Miss Dolores. It says, "You made me feel like I wasn't trash. I hope someone calls your name with love every day of your life." No one calls me Lorraine here. But when they say Ellie, I answer, because Ellie is free. And Lorraine is legend. They tell me he never said a word. When Grace handed him the letter, his hands trembled. He took it without looking up, eyes locked on the seal, as if breaking it would confirm something he wasn't ready to know. She said he read it slowly at first, like maybe he thought there would be an apology folded between the lines. Then faster. Then again. He didn't cry, not in front of her. But when she turned to leave, she heard the chair creak. The kind of creak that doesn't come from movement, but from a body forgetting how to hold itself upright. I wasn't there, of course. That part of the story didn't belong to me anymore. My part had ended weeks earlier. My body was whole. My life, quiet. The letter had been written with a steady hand, deliberate strokes, no tear stains, no crossed-out regrets. Only truth. You were born into love, raised on sacrifice. I gave you what I never had. I protected your childhood, even when mine was cracking beneath it. I kept the stories of your father's cowardice from you, let you think he left out of wariness instead of weakness. I let you believe he loved you, because I thought one of us should. And even when the sickness came, even when you disappeared from my life like I was a blemish to be scrubbed clean, I still thought, maybe he's just busy. Maybe he's scared. But then you looked me in the eye and said I was too ugly to be seen. And that was the moment I knew I hadn't failed as a mother. You failed as a son. That's the sentence that struck him hardest. Grace said his mouth moved as he read it again, silently, almost like prayer or punishment. The rest was paperwork, deeds, transfer notices, donation receipts, finalized signatures. Each page was legal, permanent, and indifferent to his disbelief. What he thought was his inheritance had already been given away to strangers who understood the worth of something even when it didn't shine. There would be no home for him, no trust fund, no pearls, not even the watch he gave me the year he got his first promotion. I had left nothing with his name on it but the letter and silence. He tried calling Grace once more. She didn't answer. Some doors don't open again, not even for blood. I don't know what he does now. I don't track him, I don't ask, but I imagine him sometimes, sitting in the dark kitchen of his downtown condo, scrolling through old emails looking for clues, listening for ghosts, regretting what he hadn't said when the door was still open, what he hadn't done when I was still within reach. I imagine the silence that follows him now. Not the kind that's peaceful or earned, but the kind that fills every room with things unsaid. That's what I left him, not anger, not vengeance, not even a chance to make it right. Just the echo of everything he refused to hear when I was still trying to speak. The scarf he left behind sits in a box now, tucked in the back of a closet at Whitmore Hall. That's what they renamed it, my name, given not to family, but to sanctuary. The women there know it by heart. They wear it on their sleeves, in their pride, in their small dignities reclaimed. Grace tells me one of them teaches writing now. Another started a garden that feeds 6 neighborhoods. They tell my story to new arrivals, not as tragedy, as possibility. They say I lived with purpose, and I did. I sip tea now with the windows open wide. I watch the sea roll in and out like a metronome, like breath. I walk to the market for fresh bread, trade coins with vendors who know nothing about where I came from, only what I choose to bring. Sometimes I miss the sound of my name, but not the version that came from lips that forgot how to love me. I don't miss Jason. I miss the boy he once was. The boy who brought me dandelions in a clenched fist. The boy who asked me to sing the same song 3 times before bed. The boy who once said, "When I grow up, I'm going to take care of you." But that boy is gone. And I buried him long before the world thought I had died. No gravestone, no flowers, just a single sentence written in my journal on the night he erased me. Some sons are born, others are manufactured by absence. This story doesn't end with forgiveness. It doesn't soften. Some stories aren't about healing, they're about truth. And my truth is this: I gave him everything. And when I had nothing left, I built a life where my silence was the loudest thing he'd ever hear. Now I live in peace, and he lives in echoes. Sometimes the hardest truth to face is this: not everyone you love will love you the way you deserve. And when that love comes from your own blood, your own child, the wound cuts deeper than anything else life can throw at you. But this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about what we do after it. It's about who we become when the people we gave everything to turn away and leave us standing in silence. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. It can mean strength. It can mean wisdom. It can mean the moment we finally stop asking to be seen and start seeing ourselves again. For those of us in the second half of life, it's easy to feel like the world wants to put us away, like we've already served our purpose, already poured out everything we had, and now we're expected to disappear quietly. But what this story reminds us is that value isn't something others give you. It's something you remember you've always had. You don't need to shout to reclaim your worth. You don't need revenge in the way the world defines it. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is living well, on your own terms, with peace in your heart and purpose in your days. So what can we take from this? If someone in your life has dismissed you, disrespected your years, or forgotten the hands that once fed them, don't chase them. Don't beg. Instead, protect your peace. Invest in your own well-being. Redirect the love you gave away toward people and places that reflect it back to you. Speak to a lawyer if you need to. Write a new will. Volunteer somewhere that needs what you still have to give. Plant a garden. Start a journal. Leave a legacy that honors who you are, not what others failed to see, because you're not done. Your story isn't over. You may be quieter now, but that doesn't mean you're powerless. In fact, Your silence, when chosen, can become the most resounding statement of all. And one day, those who ignored your worth may finally hear it, loud and clear. But by then, you won't need their recognition. You'll have your peace. You'll have yourself. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved in order to protect your peace? Let us know in the comments below. We read every one. If this story touched something in you, please consider subscribing to our channel. And if you'd like to support us in continuing to share meaningful healing stories like this one, we welcome donations of any size with deep gratitude. Thank you for being here. You matter, and your story still has power.